Hey everyone, feeling like the world's a little stuck in an energy rut? Well, today we're going to dive deep into a country that's making serious waves in the solar energy world, Ivory Coast. We're exploring a fascinating episode from Renewable Energy Talk, all about their incredible push towards green energy. Get this, they're aiming for a whopping 42% renewable energy by 2030. Talk about ambitious. So how are they planning to pull that off?
Well, it all starts with their amazing natural resources. Think sunshine so strong that it averages 4.5 to 6 kilowatt hours per square meter daily. That puts them among the leaders in West Africa for solar potential.
Well, that's a lot of sunshine. But I'm guessing they haven't always been solar powered, have they?
You're right, they've relied on thermal and hydroelectric power in the past, but now they're shifting towards renewables, driven by those ambitious goals you mentioned.
So it's not just talk, they're really building stuff.
Oh, absolutely. One of the most impressive projects is the Boundiali Solar Power Plant. It's their first utility-scale solar installation, meaning it feeds power directly into the national grid.
Hold on, utility scale.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's providing clean energy for over 30,000 households.
Wow, 30,000 homes from just one solar plant. That's amazing. And are there other projects like this in the works?
Absolutely. There's a 25 megawatt solar plant being built in Corhogo, and then there's the Scaling Solar Program. Think of it as a matchmaking service for solar power.
Oh, okay. How does that work?
It helps countries like Ivory Coast to structure solar projects, run competitive bidding, and attract private investment.
Ah, so scaling solar brings in the big bucks to get these projects going. That's fantastic. And I'm hearing about a project in Tuba, too.
Yeah, there's a planned 60 megawatt facility in Tuba thanks to Scaling Solar. These are the kinds of large scale projects that will really drive them toward their 2030 target.
That's incredible. But what about people living in more remote areas? Are they benefiting from this solar boom, too?
Definitely. Solar mini-grid projects are making a big difference in rural areas, especially in the Zanzan and Waroba districts. These mini-grids bring electricity to communities that have never had it before. The impact is huge.
Okay, paint me a picture. What does that impact actually look like?
Imagine a rural health center that can finally run essential medical equipment 24/7, or students being able to study longer because their classrooms have solar-powered lights. And think about small businesses operating more efficiently, maybe even extending their hours thanks to reliable electricity. That's what these mini-grids are making possible.
Wow, that's impressive. But hold on, how are they actually paying for all of this? Is the government footing the bill for every single solar panel?
Well, government support is important, but it's not just about throwing money at the issue. They've set up a really smart policy framework. Back in 2014, they introduced an electricity code that opened the doors for private investment in renewable energy. And they've sweetened the deal with incentives like tax breaks for renewable energy equipment.
So they're making it financially attractive for businesses to get involved. Smart move. What's the government's role in all of this?
They created CI Energies, a special agency that's like the conductor of the whole renewable energy orchestra.
I like that analogy.
They're responsible for structuring projects, attracting that crucial private investment, and making sure everything runs smoothly. They're the renewable energy maestros.
I love it. It sounds like a well-coordinated effort.
Yeah.
But here's a question that's been bugging me. What happens when the sun goes down? Does everything just stop?
That's where battery energy storage comes in. You see, solar power is what we call intermittent. It comes and goes with the sun, so you need ways to store energy to keep things running when the sun's not shining.
Makes sense. So are they using these battery solutions in Ivory Coast?
Absolutely. And it's a trend that's gaining momentum. We're seeing a lot of interest in hybrid solutions, especially for those mini grids in rural areas. They're basically creating mini power grids that can operate independently.
Now that's thinking ahead. Are they doing this on a larger scale too?
Oh, yeah. In fact, they're planning to add battery storage systems to that Boundiali solar plant we talked about earlier.
Wait, they're adding batteries to a plant that's already up and running? Wow, they're not messing around.
It's all about creating a more reliable and consistent power supply. These batteries help manage those times when everyone's using electricity at once, like peak hours, and ensure smooth power to the grid.
This all sounds incredible, but I have a feeling it can't be all smooth sailing. What are some of the challenges they're facing with this rapid solar expansion?
Well, you're right. Every transition has its bumps. One of the biggest hurdles is the initial cost, especially for smaller projects. It's a significant investment. Then there's the issue of grid infrastructure, particularly in remote areas where the existing grid might not be equipped to handle all this new solar power.
So it's not just about installing solar panels. It's about making sure the entire energy system can keep up. And what about the people who will be installing and maintaining these systems?
That's another key challenge, the need for technical capacity building. You need skilled workers to keep things running smoothly, and finding and training those workers takes time and resources.
So they're facing some serious hurdles. How are they tackling these challenges?
Well, they're not shying away from them. The government is working with international institutions and using innovative financing mechanisms to make those upfront costs more manageable. They're also embracing decentralized solutions, like those mini-grids we talked about, to bypass those grid infrastructure limitations. And to address the skills gap, they're investing in training programs and knowledge transfer initiatives.
So they've got a plan. Can you give me a concrete example of those training programs?
Sure. The Bounty Alley project included a training program for local technicians. They're learning everything from basic solar panel maintenance to operating those complex control systems. It's about empowering communities to take charge of their own energy future.
That's awesome. So looking ahead, what's next for Ivory Coast's solar scene? What are the big opportunities waiting to be tapped?
The potential is huge. Imagine all the government buildings, schools, and hospitals running on clean energy. That's a massive market right there. Plus, the government's rural electrification program is creating opportunities for public-private partnerships, which can bring in even more investment and innovation.
I see a lot of potential. And what about opportunities for businesses?
Businesses are realizing they can save money and improve their green image by switching to solar, so the commercial and industrial solar sector is booming. And there's a growing market for local manufacturing of solar components, too.
So more jobs and economic growth. It's like a solar-powered domino effect. What about other sectors? Any hidden gems?
The agricultural sector is ripe with opportunity. Imagine solar-powered irrigation systems revolutionizing farming and solar-powered cold storage cutting down on food waste. The possibilities are endless.
Wow, you've painted a bright picture. Okay, time for a crystal ball prediction. What's the outlook for the next 5 years?
I'm very optimistic. You have a government that's fully committed, technology costs that are constantly decreasing, and private sector interest that's skyrocketing. It's a recipe for success.
So what will this success look like? Give us a glimpse into Ivory Coast's solar-powered future.
I predict a lot more utility-scale projects, especially in the sunny northern regions. We'll also see faster integration of battery storage, making solar power more reliable and less dependent on the weather. And keep an eye out for those innovative business models, especially in the commercial and industrial sector. Things are going to get really interesting.
That's super exciting. It's inspiring to see how a country can embrace its natural resources, turn challenges into opportunities, and create a brighter future. And the coolest part, this is just the beginning of their solar journey.
It's truly an exciting time for renewable energy in Africa, and Ivory Coast is leading the charge. It's impressive how they're not just focusing on those big power plants, they're also bringing solar to those rural communities that haven't had access to electricity for so long.
You know what really struck me? How they included that training program as part of the Bounty Alley project. They didn't just build the plant and leave. They made sure that the local communities would be able to operate and maintain it for years to come.
Yeah, that's a vital part of the whole thing. It's about giving local people the power to be involved in this change, not just having the technology dropped on them. Imagine being a young technician from Bounty Alley learning to operate a state-of-the-art solar plant. That's a pretty bright future.
Definitely. And it creates a ripple effect, doesn't it? Those 200 jobs from the Bounty Alley project, that's 200 families with steady incomes who can invest in their children's education and contribute to the local economy.
Exactly. It's a great example of sustainable development, creating a positive cycle where the economy grows, society progresses, and the environment is protected all at the same time.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the positives. What about the challenges? You mentioned grid infrastructure being a problem, especially in remote areas. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So in many rural areas, the electrical grid is old and probably can't handle a lot of new solar power coming in. It's like trying to put a fire hose into a garden hose. It just won't work.
So how are they fixing this grid issue? Are they rebuilding the whole thing?
Well, rebuilding the entire grid would be a huge job and not always the best solution. Instead, they're using a more spread out approach. Remember those solar mini-grids. Think of them as self-contained power systems that can work on their own without being connected to the main grid. It's a much more flexible solution, especially in those really remote communities where connecting to the main grid would be super expensive or just logistically impossible.
So it's like creating these little islands of solar power that can bring electricity to even the most remote places. I love that. It's like democratizing solar power, making it accessible to everyone.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about having lights, it's about opportunity.
Mm.
With reliable power, those rural communities can finally connect to the internet, start new businesses, and improve their lives in so many ways.
It's easy to get lost in the technical stuff like solar panels and megawatts. But the real inspiration is the human impact of all of this. We're talking about real people whose lives are changing for the better, who now have access to something many of us take for granted, flipping a switch and having light.
Absolutely. It's about more than just bringing light to homes and businesses. It's about giving people hope. It's about empowering them to create a better future for themselves and their families. That's what makes this whole solar journey so amazing.
Speaking of empowering communities, you mentioned something about local manufacturing of solar components. What would that look like?
Right now, Ivory Coast has to import most of their solar panels and parts. But imagine if they can make those things themselves. It would be a brand new industry, creating tons of jobs and boosting the local economy.
So what's stopping them from building solar panel factories?
The biggest things are money and expertise. Setting up a factory takes a lot of investment, and you need highly skilled workers. It's not something that happens overnight.
So are they just waiting for someone to gift them a solar panel factory?
Not at all. They're actively trying to attract foreign investment and partners for manufacturing. And they're investing in education and training programs to create a local workforce that has the skills to work in a high-tech solar industry.
So it's a long-term plan, not a quick fix. It's about building a solid foundation for a strong solar industry.
Exactly. They're planting seeds that will grow into a whole solar ecosystem with benefits that will last for generations.
I'm impressed by their vision and determination. They're thinking about a future, not just today.
Definitely. And they're proving that sustainable development isn't just about the environment. It's about creating a more fair and prosperous future for everyone.
You know, we've been really focused on solar energy, but I'm curious about other renewable sources. Is Ivory Coast looking at those too?
Of course, while solar is the star of the show right now, they haven't forgotten about other options. Wind power, biomass, and even geothermal energy are on their minds.
Wow, it's like they're building a whole renewable energy orchestra with solar as the conductor.
Yeah.
What about wind power specifically? What's the potential there?
Ivory Coast has a lot of coastline, which means they have access to good wind resources, particularly in the east and west. They're starting to explore the potential of wind farms, and there are several studies happening right now to see what's possible.
So we might see wind turbines popping up next to those solar panels sometime soon.
It's definitely a possibility. And don't forget about biomass. Ivory Coast has a big agricultural sector, which creates a lot of organic waste. That waste can be used to make biogas and biofuels. It's a great way to turn something we don't need into energy and reduce our dependence on fossil fuels.
It's like they're making lemonade out of lemons, but with renewable energy. So it's not about finding one perfect solution. It's about looking at all the options and creating a diverse energy plan.
Exactly. It's about finding the right mix of renewable sources to fit their specific geography and economy. It's a customized approach because there's no one-size-fits-all solution for clean energy.
What about geothermal energy? I know it's not as popular as solar or wind, but it has a lot of potential.
You're right. Geothermal energy uses heat from the earth to create electricity. It's clean, reliable, and basically never runs out. Now, Ivory Coast isn't famous for its geothermal activity, but there are some areas in the north and central regions that look promising and deserve more investigation.
So geothermal could be a wild card in their renewable energy hand, but definitely one worth exploring. It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is, and that's what makes this whole journey so fascinating. They're not just following a set path, they're blazing a new trail, exploring every option to create a sustainable energy future.
You know, one thing we keep coming back to is the importance of partnerships, whether it's with development banks, private investors, or organizations like the World Bank. It seems like working together is key to their success.
You got it. This isn't something they can do alone. It's a team effort. They've realized that they can achieve so much more by working together.
So it's like they're creating this whole renewable energy ecosystem where everyone brings their strengths and resources to the table to create something amazing.
That's a great way to describe it. It's about using the combined knowledge and resources of a bunch of different groups to drive innovation and make things happen faster.
I'm curious about the role of local communities in all of this. Are they just along for the ride, or are they actively involved in this energy revolution?
They're definitely involved. It's not just about those training programs we talked about. They're part of the decision-making process, giving feedback on product designs and speaking up about their needs and priorities.
So it's not just the government telling everyone what to do. It's more of a collaborative effort.
Exactly. They understand that for sustainable development to work, the people it's supposed to help need to be on board. It's about giving communities control over their energy future and making sure it aligns with what they want and believe in.
I love that. It shows how important community involvement and working together really are.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that sustainable development isn't just about technology and building things. It's about people. It's
Yeah.
about making a future where everyone has access to clean, affordable, and reliable energy, no matter where they live or what their situation is.
Okay, I have to ask, what's your personal opinion on all of this? You've clearly spent a lot of time studying Ivory Coast's solar journey. What excites you the most?
Honestly, it's the feeling that anything is possible. They're not just talking about a clean energy future. They're actually making it happen, step by step. It gives me so much hope, not just for Ivory Coast, but for the whole world.
I couldn't agree more. This is a story that needs to be told, and I'm thrilled we're sharing it with our listeners today.
Yeah.
It shows us that even when things seem impossible, we can make a better, more sustainable future.
And it all starts with having a vision, a commitment to actually doing something, and a willingness to try new things and work together. Ivory Coast is proving to everyone that a bright solar-powered future is within reach.
Well said.
Okay.
Okay, let's get into some specifics. We talked about the Bounty Alley plant being a flagship project. What makes it so special?
The Bounty Alley plant is more than just a bunch of solar panels. It's a symbol of Ivory Coast's commitment to renewable energy and a showcase for the latest technology.
Okay, you've got my attention. What makes it so high-tech?
Well, first of all, it's their first utility-scale solar installation. That means it's connected directly to the country's main power grid, delivering clean energy to the whole country. It's a huge step towards using less fossil fuels and reducing their carbon footprint.
So it's a big deal in their clean energy transition. What else makes it stand out?
It's designed for efficiency and reliability. They've used really good solar panels that capture more sunlight and turn it into electricity better. Plus, they have advanced tracking systems that follow the sun all day long to get the most energy possible.
So it's like a solar powerhouse designed to get every bit of energy from the sun. Impressive.
And remember those battery storage systems we talked about? They're going to add big batteries to the Bounty Alley plant to help even out those ups and downs of solar power and make sure the electricity flowing to the grid is nice and steady.
So they're turning Bounty Alley into a solar fortress with all the latest technology to ensure a reliable and sustainable power supply.
Exactly. It's a model for future solar projects, not just in Ivory Coast, but around the world.
We talked about those smaller mini-grids that power rural communities.
Mm.
How do they compare to a huge project like Bounty Alley?
It's a good question. It's like comparing apples and oranges. Both are fruits, both provide energy, but they're used for different things and have different qualities.
Okay, I like that analogy. Tell me more.
Big projects like Bounty Alley are meant to send power to the whole country's electricity grid. They're large, centralized, and usually need a lot of money to build. Mini-grids are much smaller and more localized. They're made to power a specific community or group of villages, usually in far-off places where connecting to the main grid just isn't practical or affordable.
So it's like having a national power system and then these smaller independent grids that work on their own.
Yeah.
It's a cool mix of centralized and decentralized energy.
Exactly. And each approach has pros and cons. Big projects can generate a lot of power, but they need a lot of infrastructure and can be disrupted easily. Mini-grids are more flexible and resilient, but they can't produce as much power.
It's like having a diverse energy plan is good, just like having a diverse investment portfolio.
Great analogy. By mixing different energy sources and ways of distributing power, they're making a more robust and resilient energy system that can handle unexpected problems.
You know, we've talked about a lot, but it feels like we've only just begun to explore Ivory Coast's solar story.
I agree. The story is still being written, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too. But before we finish this part of our deep dive, I want to ask you one last thing. We've talked a lot about the technical side of solar energy. What about the human side of all this? What are some of the social and cultural impacts of this shift to clean energy?
That's an important question. It's not just about the energy itself. It's about people's lives, their jobs, and their cultures.
I'm listening. Tell me more about the human side of this solar boom.
Well, for a lot of people in rural communities, having electricity is changing everything. Children can study at night. Families can use things like refrigerators and TVs, and businesses can work more efficiently and grow.
So it's not just energy, it's about empowerment and opportunity.
Exactly. And it's about creating a sense of pride. When communities are involved in planning and building solar projects, they feel like they own those projects, which makes them more likely to succeed and last.
So it's about working together towards a cleaner, brighter future.
Absolutely. And it's about understanding that access to energy isn't just a technical issue, it's a social and cultural one. It's about knowing what people need, respecting their traditions, and finding solutions that work for everyone.
That's a great point. It shows why it's so important to think about sustainable development in a holistic way, bringing together economic, social, and environmental
I
aspects.
couldn't agree more. It's about building a future where everyone has what they need to thrive without harming the planet or putting future generations at risk.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Ivory Coast's solar revolution, I'm feeling incredibly inspired by their story.
Me too. It's a reminder that we can make real change, even when facing huge problems like climate change and energy poverty.
We've seen the big picture, those massive power plants and those smaller mini-grids bringing light to far-off communities.
Yeah, we've talked about the technology and the people whose lives are being changed. There's so much hope coming from this small country in Africa.
It feels like this deep dive into one country's energy transition has become a much bigger conversation about sustainability and how our world is all connected.
We've learned how a nation can use its natural resources, embrace new technology, and work together to build a better future.
It's a story that goes beyond borders and shows the power of human ingenuity.
And it's not over yet.
Definitely not. Ivory Coast isn't done pushing boundaries and showing the rest of the world what's possible.
I'm really excited to see how they keep integrating those battery storage solutions. They're the unsung heroes, making solar power so much more reliable.
Me too. And I'm curious to see how they develop their own solar manufacturing industry, creating more jobs and becoming more self-sufficient.
Don't forget those other renewable energy sources they're exploring too. Wind, biomass, geothermal. They're building a really diverse and sustainable energy plan.
It's like a symphony of clean energy, with every instrument playing its part to create a harmonious and strong future.
And the best part is anyone can join this symphony. Other countries, communities, even individuals can follow Ivory Coast's lead and find their own path to a cleaner future.
So as we wrap up today, I want to leave our listeners with a simple but important question.
All right, I'm listening.
If Ivory Coast, with all its unique challenges, can make such a bold move towards solar energy, what's stopping you from taking a step in that direction too?
That's a powerful question. Even small actions can make a difference. Putting a solar panel on your roof, supporting a local renewable energy project, or simply talking about clean energy can help us all move towards a brighter future.
That's what it's all about, folks. We've been exploring Ivory Coast's solar journey, a story of hope, innovation, and the unwavering belief in a better future. And remember, that future starts with each of us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.